For many families, summer means backyard barbecues, pool parties, and fireworks. And although they are beautiful, they are also quite dangerous. In 2023, these explosives caused 8 deaths and nearly 10,000 injuries. Joining us today are Drs. James Higgins and Kenneth Means from the Curtis National Hand Center at MedStar Union Memorial Hospital. It's one of the nation's leading facilities for hand and upper extremity care. Welcome, you two.
Well, thanks very much, Elsa.
Yeah, I'm happy to have you here. So I've got to ask you, let's just start out with the big picture. Dr. Higgins, let's start with you. How big of a problem are hand injuries related to fireworks this time of year?
Well, it's a really big problem because we're coming up in the busy season, heading into 4th of July, but there are lots of peaks and valleys over the course of the year. As you heard earlier, this has been the cause of 10,000 injuries over the course of the year in the United States, and we estimate in the peak season we'll see 200 to 250 cases of injuries related to home firework use per day across the country.
Wow.
So this is something that is really important when it happens to you, and it can be really debilitating and have a lot of impact on you socially and from a work standpoint and a family standpoint. So it's a big problem and it's very avoidable.
Yeah, and calling attention to it early is why you guys are here. Dr. Means, can you help us understand what patients actually go through when they have a firework-related injury?
Well, obviously it can be a devastating problem. You know, the hand has so many components to it. There are 31 bones alone in between the wrist and the hand, 18 muscles within the hand, and then 23 tendons that go from the forearm and the wrist into the hand. Yeah. And that doesn't even count, you know, the numbers of nerves, arteries, blood vessels, a lot of complex anatomy in there. And imagine if you're holding a bomb in your hand and it goes off. It's devastating, devastating injury. So two recent examples that I would share are younger patients, you know, under the age of 18 or just over the age of 18. Cherry bombs are pretty common. Holding on to it, it only takes 3 seconds for that fuse to go off for a cherry bomb. So if you're holding it and the thumb can get blown off, fingers get blown off, and then it's a very difficult problem. Then we're trying to figure out what can we save, what can we not save, what do we have to work with.
Is it a lot of times that they just don't realize that it's going to go off as quickly as it is, or that it gets stuck, or they drop in and they don't move fast enough? How does it happen?
Yeah, exactly, and that's where we see, as Dr. Higgins mentioned, the home issue is really what we see. When professionals are doing it, we don't tend to see that many issues from professionals. Exactly. Yeah. So I would say what I've noticed is that on the 4th, most people go to professional settings, and it's usually just before and just after the 4th where we see the home injuries.
Oh, they want to keep it going.
Exactly.
Got it. All right,
started early.
Yes, and so for families who want to use fireworks at home, what are the top safety tips if they feel like, you know what, we can be safe? What would you say?
Well, I would say, first and foremost, we love it if you just go to see a professional show. But if you have to use them at home, there are a remarkably large number of things that can go wrong, and it's amazing actually that we permit people to set off explosives at home for fun. That's kind of a funny setup. But there are many things that we always warn people. Number one, never light them in your own hand. It turns out that of those 10,000 injuries we talked about, over 40% of them are all hand related. And that's because things are being lit in your hand. Or they light the fuse seems to not ignite the device.
And they come back to it.
They go back to the dud and pick it up, and then it in a delayed fashion explodes. So don't light them in your hand. Don't lean over them when lighting them in case they go off. Certainly you should be wearing some protective eyewear at a minimum when setting off fireworks. And of course, keep them away from children. A lot of the injuries we see are related to kids, and it's remarkable. It's not necessarily negligence on the parents' part, but there are often times where these fireworks are stored or kept in the house, and this is really tempting for later use by the kids, and the parents may be unaware that they're being used. So,
and this segment is not about judging. It's really about giving you the knowledge so that you can help protect your family. And if something does happen, because things happen, if someone gets injured, what's the first thing that they should do?
Well, fortunately in Maryland, we have such a great trauma system. The first responders are amazing. I think we kind of take that for granted. They're really special in Maryland. So always getting in touch with them is a great option, and then they can get in touch with other professionals as needed. I'd say the first thing is making sure you're not going to get injured any more than you have already, and no one else is either. So dousing things, getting them out of the way, getting out of the zone of injury that can happen. And then after that, hopefully you're not ending up with something like this, but this
No.
is literally what can happen. This is an example of a case that, one of the patients I mentioned.
You can leave it up so that we can see that, yeah.
Where you're losing fingers, and so you've got, muscle and bone, all sorts
Yeah.
of things. And obviously here, you're just putting pressure on, applying a bandage such as this, and again, getting in touch with, those first responders so they can give you the real professional advice.
And you mentioned that here in Maryland, we are fortunate. So when things go wrong, there's a whole trauma net. We've got Maryland Trauma Net. Remind us about their work and why it's so important.
Right, and this is something that we take for granted, and many of our citizens may not be aware of, but Maryland has an organized trauma net, which is run by the Maryland Institute for Emergency Medical Services, which has a number of different hospitals, all of which contribute to this network of trauma care that's very, very well organized. We have subspecialty centers like our center at MedStar Union Memorial Hospital, where we take care of hands, and that's what we do on a subspecialty basis. But the Trauma Net in Maryland is actually looked upon by other states as being sort of a shining model of how things should be done and should be organized on a state level. So we're really lucky to have that.
Yeah.
You're in good hands, but certainly if indeed it is an injury related to the hands, we also have a large specialty center for
Yes.
care of the upper extremity at MedStar Union Memorial Hospital.
All right, and to get more information, of course, you can just go to Maryland Trauma Net and you can find out that information as well. I want to thank both of you for being with us. We really appreciate it. And we'll be right back with more Midday Maryland right after this.